museum back to life.
You know, people sit out on the front porch hoping people will come by.
Go forth and do good. It's insane. I have the most understanding wife in the world.
I treat everybody the same thing.
Oh, that's the other thing I love about Marietta. It's like a melting pot.
You are listening to Marietta Stories. Each week, veteran podcaster Bill Nowicki brings you the heartwarming, interesting, and fun stories from the people that make the community of Marietta, Georgia, a place to call home. Here's your host, Bill Nowicki.
Here we are at Sewell Mill Cultural Center with James Mitchell. He just interviewed me for his podcast called
Culture on the Cob.
Culture on the Cob, and it's got a corn cob on there, which I think is pretty cool. Who designed that logo?
So Precious, who works at Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Center in the Creative Studios, designed that for us.
Cool. All right, so what's your title here at the Sewell Mill?
I'm the facilities manager. And
what's that mean?
I kind of oversee the whole facility if there's any issues with the facility. Also manage all the staff from the creative studios and work with parks who are also in this building as well to kind of bridge the relationship between library and parks, and so that we all work together well and, you know, develop our programming together and do everything we can to make sure that the programs that we're giving to the public are the highest quality possible.
Yeah, I'm super excited. The minute I saw you guys posting about this facility on social media, I knew it was going to be cool. So it's not just a library. It's not just, I mean, you guys have art. You have, we had a podcast presentation thing going on. So you got a little, what's that, theater? Was that what you call it?
Yeah, black box theater in there.
Black box theater. You have studios. How many studios you have?
So we have 2 large studios, 1 audio and 1 video, and then we have 3 smaller studios, kind of practice edit rooms.
Yeah. Right now we're in is this your biggest studio, right? Or is...
Yeah, this is the biggest studio, the audio studio.
But you can do record instruments and bands. Have you done that? Has anybody done that yet?
Oh, yeah, we've had bands in here. We have a lot of singers and rappers who use it. A lot of podcasters who come in and use the space as well. YouTubers who are just doing like voiceover work, things like that. So it's got a lot of use. Some people just come in and play their instruments. They're not recording anything. It's just kind of the space to, you know, experiment and play around with sound.
Now, how did this whole idea for Sewell Mill come to fruition?
Well, years ago, this replaces the East Marietta Library that was not right at this, basically at this location, a little where the top parking lot is now. So that library was built, I believe, in the late 50s, early 60s, not 100% certain the exact date, but it was time.
Asbestos.
Yeah, it was time to update that facility. And so it was looking at, you know, since we're getting a brand new facility, taking advantage of it and looking at, with all the new technology out there, what really can help people learn. So how do people learn? And looking at a specific area, and in this case, it was art. How do people truly learn to make music? How do people learn to make podcasts? How do people take information, which is everywhere? I mean, information's easy to find, but how to turn that into knowledge? And so a lot of the importance to that in this facility is the use of space. So it's important to have the designated space that's designed for the usage that you want to use it for. So to learn to perform, for instance, to do an open mic night like we do in our black box theater, you need to be able to get out there and do a performance. It's kind of, you have to do it to learn, you know. Same with music. So before, the library might have books and DVDs on how to use Pro Tools, which didn't do you any good at all if you didn't have a computer that was powerful enough to run Pro Tools and could afford Pro Tools and had the interfaces and all that kind of stuff. So this just gives kind of a level playing for anybody who wants to come in here to learn how to make music or any kind of art, really.
But you need a library card. You at least
you do need a library card. Yeah, so it's not, you know, completely without its hurdles, and you have to have transportation here, which I understand is an issue for some people, you know. But we made the hurdles as low as possible. It's free to get a library card if you live in Cobb County, and we have out of county users as well who pay the $40 fee and come use the library.
I was shocked at how great it is. I mean, that theater you have that we used has all the lighting and the acoustics are great. I mean, How did you guys get the money for this place?
Yeah, so the money is from SPLOST. Most of it is from SPLOST.
Explain to people what that is.
SPLOST is a tax that comes, it's a 1 cent sales tax. And I hope I don't get this too wrong, but every so many years, I believe it's 5, maybe it's 6, 4, somewhere in there, it comes up on the ballot, and it's for a specific amount of time for the next 5 or 6 years, and then voters vote whether they're willing to have that 1 cent tax. But at the front end of that, then we kind of propose these are the projects that if you do pass the tax will get built, and this was one of those projects. And so the taxpayers voted that they did want to pay the 1 cent, and that's where we're at here.
Yeah, and I'm like I said, I love this place. So tell us a little bit about yourself, James. Where did you grow up?
Sure, I grew up in Alabama.
All over the state?
No, a little town called Evergreen, which is about halfway between Mobile and Montgomery. So
sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's a rural area in Alabama, but not a lot to do there. So, but my parents.
What was your life like?
Yeah, it was pretty. Like I said, there's not a lot to do there, especially when you're a teenager. It's more getting in trouble than anything else because there's really nothing there at all. So,
what did your parents do?
My dad was an environmentalist. He worked for the state. And my mother, she did off and on jobs, but she mainly stayed at home.
So what did you do for fun when you were a kid?
Oh, when I was a kid?
Yeah, when you were a little kid.
Yeah, so, ride bikes all the time, played football and basketball. You have to play football if you're in Alabama. I think it's like a law or something.
Well, you're not the biggest guy in the world, James. I don't know about football and you.
Well, I didn't say I was any good at it. I was probably the world's worst football player. So yeah. But
what was the worst football play? Would you say? What happened to you playing football that you can remember that was bad?
Oh, the worst. I was a receiver, so you'd have to mini drop passes, I guess you could say, or You
didn't get hit too hard, did you?
Oh yeah, you got hit hard. Yeah, I mean, I broke bones and twisted ankles and things like that, and knees.
What was the name of your high school?
Sparta.
So did you play in this football team at Sparta?
Yes, I played, and I played football from when I was little. They called it tiny mites, I think, back then. I think you started in 3rd grade. I believe it was in 3rd grade you start playing football there, and I played most every year from 3rd grade through high school till after I was a senior in high school.
And what happened after high school?
Then I went to college, went to community college for a couple years, went to University of Alabama for not too long, and then kind of took a little time off, traveled around a little out west and things like that.
What was the difference? Why did you decide to do that?
Oh, just to, ready to see the world kind of thing, young. And, if you've been stuck in Alabama all your life, you certainly would.
But what was the moment that you decided, hey, no more following this track, I'm going out west? Watch the movie or something?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was kind of...
It was a huge life-changing experience. You don't even remember what the trigger was?
Well, one thing about me is I have an awful memory. I will tell you that. So everything I tell you is going to be kind of loose. Rough.
That's going to make this hard. Yeah. Trying to get you to remember stuff. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so anyway, how did you get out west?
Car. I mean, and took a car.
What kind of car? No,
I don't even remember. I have no idea.
You do have a bad memory. See, I have a memory for stories. Like I can picture myself, walking on the sub for the first day or whatever, but it doesn't sound like you have that kind of memory.
No, not at all. So
where'd you go out west? You remember that?
Yeah, see, I worked in Arizona for a little bit.
Doing what?
Worked for, I think it was Rip Griffin's, which was like a truck stop place, pumping gas for truckers.
So you were serious about doing this. Did you know anyone out there?
No, just kind of traveled around. So,
really, where did you sleep?
Well, sometimes in the car, sometimes like extended stay hotels, things like that. Just depended if you had a job or not.
I think that's so cool, though, man, because I think you learn so much going through something like that. Because you're, like you said, you're in the same place your whole life. What kinds of things did you learn?
Well, it was one thing. It was
be self-sufficient.
Be self-sufficient.
What did you eat? Like pork rinds and stuff?
It was awful. Yeah, whatever. I would sometimes scrounge up pennies off the floor or anywhere we could find them, and here's enough money to get $1 or something.
Who you said we? Who else?
Yeah, so at one time there was a girl. We won't get into that.
I knew you were avoiding it. There was a girl. So now it's starting. I'll put together the story if you let me. So what was your mom and dad thinking at this time?
Oh, I'm sure they weren't too happy at all.
You almost knocked your glasses off there. I think we're getting a little. All right. So but your parents freaking out like on a scale from 1 to 10, like a 9 or 10.
Well, maybe around a 7. We'll give them a 7. So they're not big freak outers, but I could have been doing a lot worse things. Yeah. So, and I guess they knew that. But yeah, they wanted me to finish college and do the traditional kind of path. So, which I did eventually.
Right. Okay. So, how long were you on your Western tour there?
That was it wasn't that long. Was it 6 months? Oh, okay. It wasn't long. It wasn't that long. Yeah. It was just kind of
What made you want to come back?
Wrecked the car in New Orleans. So no car, no money. So
no car, no money. You're back home, and then did you go back home or did you go back to college?
I went back home briefly, and then I got a job. Was saving some money, and then my youngest daughter came along, and so that was.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Well. Then that's what led to me going back to school. It's like, all right, I'm going to have to make some money now. I'm going to have to.
Isn't that the scariest thing when I remember I was still in college when I was in the Navy 6 years, then went to college. So I was 29. And I remember looking at that kid in the bassinet like, man, was I freaking out. It's like, how am I going to take care of this little thing? Oh,
yeah. When a year earlier I was picking up pennies to pay for McDonald's. And I never felt stressed traveling around even without money because it was just me. Right. I was responsible for me. So, I'll be fine. I'll take care of it. But and
that girl you don't want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But then whoever had this baby and then this is like the worst interview ever. I got to talk to some of the real estate agents at Johnny Walker Realty. One of them was Shannon Van Horn, and this is what she had to say about working with Johnny and Carrie.
I've been with a couple different brokers, but this is by far my favorite. Literally nothing that they haven't been able to find an answer for me. If they don't have the answer, they're going to talk to each other and figure out an answer and then get back to us. When I tell people that I'm now at Johnny Walker Realty, there's nobody that doesn't know who they are. So that's nice.
Real estate agents that are happy do better for their clients and the business. That's what I think is helping Johnny Walker Realty grow so quickly. Remember, they're at 262 Church Street, just down from the square. Check them out. You're not giving me much to go by, but it was trip out west, babies, wrecked cars. I mean, I don't even know how you wreck your car. What happened with it?
It was just on the interstate, kind of little fender bender kind of thing.
You just dumped it and got on a bus and got home?
No, it got totaled, and the insurance company was going to pay.
Okay. It's all right. So you had this baby, you went back to school, and your mom's watching the baby? Or the mom?
A mixture, both, yeah.
So then you got a degree in?
So my undergrad was in social work. And I worked in therapeutic foster care real briefly, and then went on to graduate school for library science.
Now, it seems like you're pretty handy with technology. Was that always a passion for you?
No, not really. Technology came about later, really working in libraries, because it's such a big part of what libraries do. And my interest in art was more what led into interest in learning how to run Pro Tools. This is not necessarily that it's software; it's just that's what you need to know to make something to work, kind of thing. So.
All right. So, what did you do right after college or master's or whatever?
Yeah. So after I graduated from University of Alabama, I went to Kentucky, and I got a job right out of college as the director of the library system in a little county library. I have no idea why they hired me, but they did, and so I did that for about 6 years. And then
must have been a tough interview, though. Yeah. You can't remember things. I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah, I think I was too young to even realize that it was something you don't do. So it wasn't really that stressful of an interview or anything like that. So
that's cool. How long did you have that job?
6 years.
Really? So what did you transform the county's library system?
Yeah, I mean, that job was great as far as giving me experience. We got a lot of grants to do music series and concert series. We did running 5Ks, things of that nature. We did all kinds of community events because in a small town, there's not a lot of other agencies that do these things. So if you're in a small town and you're the library, there's kind of this vacuum, and you just kind of pick up the pieces of all this other stuff with working with the city and the health department and everybody else, because everybody kind of just works together to do these things. And then, it gave me the experience in the traditional library activities as well, collection development, that kind of stuff.
Wow, that's really cool. And how'd you end up in Marietta?
Yeah, so looking to move from Kentucky. Kentucky was a long way from home in terms of driving to see my parents and things of that nature. So I was tired of driving 10 hours to get home for them to see the grandkids and things like that. So we moved to the Atlanta area. So we looked around the Atlanta area, and there was a job opening in Marietta. So that's when I applied for, and I started out at East Marietta when it was the old bomb shelter from the 50s.
What is it? Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So how did you get the job you have now?
Well, I was at Vining's Library working as the branch manager there when this facility was scheduled to be open. So I applied for it, and basically my experience with working with the concerts and arts councils and different artists and things like that, I think helped a lot. That's why that experience in Kentucky was key, I think.
What's the best part of your job?
The best part is just working with the people. I love seeing the artists come in, and it's fun to see people who have at the very beginning stages of creating stuff, and who have, there's people come in who have no idea about any of the software, and they come here, and they come every day or 3 or 4 times a week, and you see after several months, they're past and to see that transformation and that commitment to creating and just to working with artists, because I've always been, kind of fascinated by artists and the creation of art. Someone who has no skill in that area, it's always kind of just fascinating how people can create.
Talk about what it was like when you first started your career to today with the types of technology we have in the studio, the availability, the ease of putting content out there. What have you noticed that's changed?
Well, technology obviously changes everything, and especially libraries. That's especially true. As you see, this particular library focuses on art with recording studios, but libraries all over the country have things like maker spaces, 3D printing, things of that nature. So that's really changed. But also, ebooks and e-readers have changed the way that people digest information. Audiobooks, used to you'd get the CDs, and we still have those, but most people just download it on their phone now, and you get that with your library card, and just like anything else. So it's changed a lot just how people access the information, and it also has created more opportunities for people to learn. Like I said before, to create music before, library might have had some books and things, but didn't have the rest of the technology to make it possible. Now, if you can just get here, you can learn. And so I think that's an important transition for libraries in the future, is to look at how they can facilitate people taking all this information. There's so much information out there everywhere, but it has to be put in a way that you can actually turn it into knowledge. And without having the tools to do that, and there's a lot of people who aren't lucky enough to have those tools, and to have access to those tools, only makes the world a better place.
Right. So tell me about because right here in this studio you have a keyboard, you have drums. Tell me about how young people utilize these technologies, because people my age, it's difficult to get them started down that road, but it seems like younger people just get started right away.
Oh, yeah. We have, I would say, a large majority of the people who use the studios are younger, especially a lot of the musicians. So we have, electronic drum kits and MIDI keyboard, and we have guitars, basses, things of that nature that they can use. So we have people doing, bands come in, we have singers, we have a lot of rappers who come in, we have a lot of software like FL Studio and Pro Tools and Reason. So some people just make beats, for instance. They don't even sing or play an instrument. It's all about producing. And a mixture. So we see some of the kids I see they may be producing for a friend, and then they have their own projects they're working on. So it's kind of a whole mixture. You see a lot of networking. They'll see somebody else, and they'll just kind of talk to each other, and suddenly somebody's doing somebody's video for somebody's band or something like that. So that's always fun to see when you see that networking and seeing, young and older people as well. I mean, we have people of all ages who really use the studio.
That's so cool. So how do folks find you guys out in the internet world?
Sure. So we can go to the website, which is www.cobcat.org. That's the library's website. That has access to all of the different branches, and then you can look for Sewell Mill there as well. And then there is our Instagram, which is...
Well, you got Sewell Mill.
Sewell Mill Instagram. So that's our Instagram. There's a Facebook account, Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Center as well. So we're on all kinds of different social platforms out there.
Great. And tell me lastly about your podcast.
Yeah, so Culture on the
Got some interesting people on that.
Yeah, so Culture on the Cob, which we just had a great guest in just a few minutes ago, Bill. Yeah, he's good. It's a podcast startup by Parks and the library staff, and we look at different kind of cultural events and people in the community. A lot of musicians and actors and theater and stuff, but not all that. We have Makerspace on, you with podcasting, so it's not completely limited to that. Just anybody really who's out there kind of creating or doing cultural things. And the idea with our podcast is just kind of introduce people to things in the community they might can get involved with. We had medieval martial arts guy come on, and different things like that. Just things that they might not know about that kind of engage them with the community, that might turn into their passion if they give it a try. Yeah,
that's great. And I do encourage people to check this place out. To use the studio, it's how long does it take you got to give them orientation thing, but it's not that much time to even come in and start using the facility.
No, I mean, if you come in and get your library card, you could come in here and get your orientation, and the orientation is under 10 minutes easily. It's basically...
Mine took longer than that. I think I was one of the first ones through.
Yeah, I think it's gotten shorter as we got busier and busier, but basically it's going over the rules and kind of what to expect and when using the studio and what kind of help we can provide and what we can't provide. We help with basic things, but we can't mix your album for you, that kind of stuff.
Well, great. And I've heard from so many folks about the great work you do, James, and I'm sure the rest of the folks at Sewell Mill do. And you're really helping to build our community, and I appreciate that. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
You have been listening to the Marietta Stories podcast. Contact us at bill@mariettastories.com to let us know your show ideas. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play so you don't miss an episode.